Just knowing that the person who did this will get, that justice will take over, and she'll be accountable for her actions.
Family members of 6 teens killed on I-15 search for closure as the end of the Jessica Williams trial draws near.
This is News 3 at 5 with Jim Snyder and Nina Radetich.
Good evening to you. Family members are waiting for the wounds to heal as the prosecution presents key witnesses in the Jessica Williams trial.
The prosecutors tell us they hope to have their side of the case wrapped up tomorrow, which means a decision in this trial could come as early as next week. Today, jurors heard from a woman who saw the crash and then tried to help the teenagers who were hit. Then a toxicologist took the stand to talk about the effects of drugs and alcohol on the body. And 2 more people recounted the events that took place that tragic day. Ben Correa is live at the Clark County Courthouse for us again tonight. And Ben, most of the testimony this afternoon came from that drug expert about the effects of marijuana.
Jim, at times it seemed like you were sitting in a chemistry class, not a courtroom, as that expert talked in detail how marijuana affects the body, especially when someone gets behind the wheel and drives. But the most compelling testimony came from a motorist who tried to save the life of one of the teens still alive after the crash.
But I did see the big dust cloud.
It's been very emotional, yes.
Jennifer was laying in the number 1 lane in the road, and the 5 other children in the dirt.
Cheryl Reagan describes the accident scene to the jury. Reagan is a nursing assistant.
And because of that, what did you do?
I went back to check for pulses to see who was alive.
When troopers arrived, Reagan told them what happened, helped them out, then focused all her attention to Jennifer Booth.
Well, he asked me to cover up the dead bodies. And then I went and I stayed with Jennifer because I knew that she was still alive. So I figured if anybody had a chance, it was going to be her.
She could have been Jennifer's angel.
What was that?
God put her there for a reason to help her out and be with her. And since we couldn't be there at the time, and the supervisors couldn't help her at all, that he put her there to help her out.
This woman, Tanya Ozark-Smith, was in Jessica's van when she slammed into the kids. The defense couldn't track her down, so a member of Jessica's legal team and the judge read Smith's grand jury testimony describing what happened on I-15.
I looked over at Jessica and she was sleeping.
And what did you do?
I yelled her name.
And what happened then?
And she woke up, and then it was too late.
It was too late? What happened?
Body slammed in the windshield.
Prosecutors have one more person to call on their witness list. I just spoke to Jessica Williams' attorney, John Watkins, minutes ago. He told me that he is going to be prepared to call his first witness Thursday afternoon. Reporting live at the Clark County Courthouse, Ben Correa. Back to you, Jim.
All right, thank you, Ben. And John Watkins, Williams' attorney, wanted the jury to go out to the crash site to see it in person. He thought that would help them better understand how dangerous that area is, but the judge denied that request.
The defense does have one person on its side who says she'll stick by Jessica Williams no matter what the outcome of the trial. In a News 3 exclusive, we talked to Williams' sister Stephanie about the tragedy and the trial.
I am proud to say that she's my sister and that she's getting through this situation despite the attacks, despite the anger from whether it be the victims' families or the public that has been invoked through negative slander.
Stephanie Williams says she had a gut feeling that if her sister moved to Las Vegas, something terrible would happen. For now, she says she tries to keep Jessica up to date on what's happening with her family to help get her mind off the trial. Remember, when the verdict does come down in the Jessica Williams trial, News 3 will bring it to you first.
If you've been around here for a while, the Williams trial might bring back some memories of a similar case back in 1987, an accident that left 2 people dead at the hands of Correa King. The lead investigator in that case is also testifying in the Williams trial this week. Chera Kimiko talked with him about the tragedy more than 13 years ago and what Jessica Williams might be feeling now.
This is a case where the young boy was standing by a school bus spot on the sidewalk, and he had another little boy friend standing there. And when the car hit the sidewalk, it broke the magnesium tire.
But the collision of then 21-year-old Correa King's car also killed 11-year-old Richie Rundel and 20-year-old Dewey Buckles.
I'm sorry. I didn't want people to get hurt.
Just like Jessica Williams, King claims she had fallen asleep at the wheel. But William Morrison, the lead investigator on scene at the time, testified at trial she also had been drinking.
And she had violated that, and although the alcohol she had wasn't a real high reading, but it was above the legal limit, and that probably assisted in her falling asleep.
King spent 3 years behind bars, but also talked about the consequences.
For a while, she would come into my classes and speak to the people who are there for misdemeanor DUIs and tell them what it's like.
Morrison, who is testifying for the prosecution in the Williams trial, says it's likely Jessica may spend time in prison as well because she is alleged to have been under the influence.
And you are held accountable for your bad decisions.
Chera Kimiko, News 3.
In 1991, Richard J. Rundel Elementary School opened its doors here in the Valley. It was named after Richie Rundel, the 11-year-old who was killed in that accident.
A 21-year-old Las Vegas woman may be the latest victim of the club drug GHB. My Crime Tracker 3 reports have kept you up to date on this epidemic. GHB is so dangerous because it's hard to detect. It looks just like water and can be easily mixed with your drink. In this case, a police report says the girl was partying at a local nightclub when she passed out and never woke up.
With GHB, because once these things go into the body, these people have no control.
Managers at the SRO club wouldn't talk to us about the incident. Police say they'll know more about the case once lab results are in.
Tonight, family members of the French man who died at the Clark County Jail say they will sue Metro despite what autopsy reports may prove. Kim Capozzo joins us live from the coroner's office now. And Kim, they've been working to figure out how Philip Lament died, and a lot of people on both sides of this are waiting to find out what that report says.
Jim, right now it may already be spelled out for us, but we can't get our hands on a copy of it yet. Nobody can. However, it is complete. It is sitting in this building behind me. But when it is released to us and we are able to look at the contents, they will likely be challenged in court. Was he or was he not beaten to death? This surveillance video is up for debate, but friends of the inmate seen here in the scuffle say there's no debating his height and weight.
They made him out to be a linebacker of the Steelers, kind of a 300-pound gorilla out of control. They tried to portray him that way in order to justify the excessive violence.
Christian Snyder may not have seen his friend as a big man, but the Clark County Coroner's Office says Philippe Lament did weigh in at 277 pounds and measured 6 feet 2 inches tall. Their autopsy report is now complete. However, it will not be released until Metro's investigation is over. Lament's friends say, despite what final reports may show, they believe pepper spray played a role in his death.
And Philip had around New Year's Eve a bad head cold. That made it harder to breathe anyhow. And I was told by a doctor that spraying him 4 times, as they admitted to, that's extremely excessive.
Excessive being the key word. And since different conclusions are being drawn about this surveillance video, an autopsy report will be the most important evidence in this case. Speaking of autopsy reports, I'd like to clear something up here. The Lament family had their own independent autopsy done. A pathologist did his own screenings, and he, right now, it has been reported in the past that those findings make cause of death being blunt trauma force to the head. Jim, I want to clear that up. That is not the case. That pathologist says he is not even complete yet with that autopsy. It is not done, and he wants to dispel that rumor that blunt force trauma to the head was cause of death. And again, the Clark County coroner has his thing complete in there, but we are not having that released yet. Jim?
All right, thank you for clearing that up, Kim. There has been a lot of speculation surrounding this case. The autopsy results are not the only reports up for debate right now. This weekend, an acquaintance of Philippe Lament's committed suicide, and some people have tried to draw conclusions that those two deaths are somehow related. But the widow of the man who died over the weekend tells us her husband was very ill, and she doesn't think his death had anything to do with Lament's death.
Random shots fired from a mobile home kept officers at bay for several hours on Monday. Today, the suspect accused in that incident, Stephen Burson, stood before a judge to answer charges of attempted murder. 2 blocks near Ronald and Charleston had to be evacuated when the gunshots went off. Now, the person faces 3 counts of attempted murder of a police officer with a deadly weapon. Authorities found several firearms inside his mobile home. They confiscated a 12-gauge shotgun and 4 handguns. And they say Burson fired 50 or more rounds from his weapon during that standoff.
A long-running feud with the feds may have sparked a shooting outside the White House today. A man with a gun held police at bay for about 10 minutes. 47-year-old Robert Pickett stood in front of the White House waving a gun and threatening to kill himself. The Secret Service agents put their years of training to the test. One shot the man in the knee after he refused to put down his weapon and surrender.
They told him to drop it and then sit down, and I didn't see his face, but he slowly sit down on the ground.
Pickett is from Indiana, and friends say he's been upset with the IRS ever since he was fired from one of their offices. White House officials say President Bush was inside the White House at the time of the shooting, but they say he was never in any danger.
Your spring break travel plans may be in jeopardy. Imagine not being able to fly at all. That could happen if workers at 4 major airlines decide to strike. This threat is very real if they can't work out these new contracts. The airlines in trouble include United, American, Delta, and Northwest, the big airlines. Well, if they do decide to strike, 2/3 of U.S. airline service would be temporarily wiped out. But again, the strikes aren't the government's only concern now. Some possible mergers, one between American and TWA and another between Delta and Continental, could mean that you'll be paying more to fly as well. Senator Harry Reid is proposing legislation called the Airline Competition Preservation Act. Under his bill, people would be protected from unreasonably high airfares. Reid's also pushing for more competition at airline hubs. And he wants to prevent unfair practices by newly combined airlines. President Bush is concerned about this. He says he's going to explore all the options to stop the possible strike. It's crucial because if the planes stop flying, Bush says, our economy could be crippled.
North Las Vegas needs more cops on the streets, so the city's holding a wide-ranging recruitment drive. The department's going to start looking for potential candidates out of state. They'll be actively searching for a few good men and women in California, Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas. The new recruitment campaign was launched just a few days ago. If you like to root for the home team, now you can put your money where your mouth is. Starting today, you can legally bet on any Nevada college team at any sports book in town. We told you a couple weeks ago, state gaming regulators lifted the ban against betting on Nevada college teams. Point spreads on Friday's UNR game and Saturday's UNLV game should be posted in the next day or two. But this may all be short-lived. As we've been telling you, some members of Congress still want college betting banned across the country, including at the sports books here in town. We won't know if that will happen until sometime in March.
Will he or won't he? What is the deal with Rick Pitino? Will he come to UNLV to coach the Runnin' Rebels? We've been talking about this for quite some time. USA Today profiled the coaching prospect, saying Pitino is still interested in Las Vegas. Today's article says Pitino likes the lifestyle, entertainment, and great weather Las Vegas has to offer. And he says he could turn UNLV into a championship team quickly. But the paper does point out some possible roadblocks to a deal, saying Pitino may be concerned about overzealous Rebel boosters. All this speculation may be over soon because Pitino is expected to meet with UNLV officials on Friday.
Those ominous clouds rolled over the mountains into the valley this afternoon, and now they're bringing some rain.
Tom Hawley is up in Sky 3 above some wet roads in Spring Valley, Tom.
Yeah, not a torrential downpour, but certainly you can see some rain in this shot down through the skids of Sky 3. And the roads are getting a little bit wet here in the Spring Valley area. Looking up here at the interchange of Flamingo Road and I-215, the Beltway, County Road 215 in this particular part, it is actually wet all the way west from Rainbow and south from approximately Sahara or so. Some areas the rain coming down moderately heavy, other areas a light sprinkle, but the roads are definitely slick out here and potentially dangerous, although we have not seen any weather-related accidents just yet. We'll keep a weather eye on it, but certainly Rachel Bosing has all the details in a few minutes. Tom Hawley reporting from Sky 3.
Yeah, we'll talk to her in just a few. Tom, thank you. If you're caught driving drunk in Las Vegas, you face some pretty tough penalties.
But one Las Vegas woman who was hit by a suspected drunk driver says police dropped the ball on her case, and the driver almost got away with nothing more than a fine.
And the next thing I remember was a trauma center and a bunch of people yelling at me.
In My Crime Tracker 3 report, a woman's action against the man who hit her. Now, hear how her efforts may change the way authorities crack down on drunk drivers.
Plus, actor Don Johnson's in big trouble after a woman says he tried to solicit sex from her.
And Bill Clinton's love-hate relationship with Al Gore. We'll tell you about the big argument the two had after the election and why Gore blames his loss on Clinton. Coming up on News 3, where news comes first.
Anytime and anywhere you can get the most up-to-date breaking news for Southern Nevada. Just visit KVBC.com. We're setting the pace in cyberspace.
Construction, detours, road closures, stay one step ahead of the delays. Just visit KVBC.com and click the Traffic Solutions button. We're setting the pace in cyberspace.
Get the weather forecast when you want it, 24 hours a day. Just visit KVBC.com and click the Weather Center 3 button. We're setting the pace in cyberspace.
You're watching Southern Nevada's #1 choice for news. This is News 3 at 5.
You're in a wreck. Your hip bone has snapped. Your face badly gashed. All because a suspected drunk driver slammed into you. You expect police to hit that person with the toughest DUI charges possible, right? That's not what happened to one Las Vegas woman. She says it's because police never followed up on her case and says the suspect almost didn't get prison time because of it. How could that happen? And could the same thing happen to you? The Crime Tracker 3 team looks for answers.
I remember it was raining. I didn't know what had happened. The next thing I remember was being told we'd been in an accident.
4:46 a.m. Terry Hendrickson and a friend are driving to work. Raul Valadares Bargalo is driving home. Then he crosses the median and hits Hendrickson and her friend head on. The truck is totaled. Hendrickson is unconscious. Metro Police show up on the scene and believe Valadares is drunk. Terry Hendrickson doesn't even remember the ride to the hospital.
And the next thing I remember was trauma center and a bunch of people yelling at me. I had a broken hip, torn cartilage in my left shoulder, and a 4-inch cut to my eye, my right eye.
Terry ended up spending almost a week here at UMC recovering from that wreck. While she was still in her hospital room, she called to find out just what happened to the guy who hit her. She couldn't believe what she found out.
He was charged as a misdemeanor DUI. I asked her how I was still in the hospital.
Metro Police at the scene filled out this accident report and charged Valadares with misdemeanor DUI with accident and marked the investigation complete. No officer ever followed up at the hospital to see how bad Hendrickson was injured, so they didn't know she had a 4-inch gash or broken bones. If they had, officers could have charged Valadares with felony DUI with substantial bodily harm, a much tougher charge that carries a maximum of 20 years in prison.
I was angry. You know, it's not... He was looking at walking away with a $200 fine. At the time, my doctors were telling me I had 5 to 6 months before I could go back to work.
Hendrickson didn't give up. She took all her pictures and medical records to the district attorney's office. And they were able to make the changes in time, charging Valadares with the felony. But Hendrickson worries that other accused DUI criminals aren't getting the same punishment.
What is the point in strengthening your DUIs if they aren't enforcing what's already there? Why should I have to do Metro's job?
Metro tells us that officers handle many accidents like Hendrickson's every day, and most are handled correctly. But they do say Hendrickson's case didn't work out the way it should have.
Because of your inquiry here, we are opening some dialogue up with the district attorney's office to see if this is an isolated incident or the scope of this problem. It's very important to us that our victims receive the guidance that they need.
The grassroots group Stop DUI is even willing to help Metro out. President Sandy Heverly says her volunteers are willing to help follow up on each DUI victim's injuries, just to see if the charges against the drunk driver can be changed.
If they would like us to do that, we're more than willing to do that so that we don't have this kind of a situation occur in the future.
Meanwhile, Raul Valadares Bargalo was sentenced last month to at least 2 years in prison and was ordered to pay Hendrickson more than $37,000 in restitution. Hendrickson says she'll need that money just for her medical bills. She's just glad she caught the mistake in time.
If you get in an accident, you have to call. You have to follow up on it, because sitting in your hands isn't going to get anywhere.
And again, Metro tells us there's no excuse for a victim not receiving the guidance he or she needs. Police are still looking to see if what happened to Terry Hendrickson is part of a more widespread problem. We haven't heard if Metro or the DA's office will accept Stop DUI's offer to follow up with DUI victims. But we'll follow up on all of this and let you know what happens. If you've been a victim of a DUI accident or any other crime and you want to know who to call to find out more about your case, just log on to our website, KVBC.com, and click on Crime Tracker 3.
Rachel's in now with more on our stormy weather. First we had the winds, then the clouds, and now, as Tom showed us, the rain.
The rain and snow up on the mountaintop.
Yuck.
So, yes, yuck. And if you want to head up to the mountains, you'll definitely have to bring your tires and chains. Look at this lovely shot, courtesy of the gentleman in Sky 3, Captain Greg Deacon and Tom Hawley. I'm switching who's flying that helicopter right now. First, though, before we get to the weather, I want to thank Kelly Mulkerin for watching. Kelly Mulkerin, you actually sent us a card. I really appreciate you doing that, and thanks for watching. What an amazing picture. Like the clouds are kissing the ground right now. Current conditions are stacking up like so. Here's the deal. Light rain. The temperature is 47 degrees. The humidity 51%. The wind out of the northwest at 10. The barometer 29.61 inches of mercury and rising. Here's the situation. 47 right now. Our high today 52. Our high yesterday, as you'll recall, 72. So yes, 20-degree drop from one day to the next. The normal high for this time of year 62. Temperatures elsewhere around the valley are stacking up like so. In fact, because of all the cloud cover, they're not falling back as quickly as they normally would from the high for today. For example, the high 52, it's 50 degrees right now in Henderson, 45 in Boulder City, 49 degrees right now in Spring Valley. Here's the Doppler radar showing you exactly what's going on. We have a low pressure system that is sliding to the southeast across Clark County. So where the green is, this is the Doppler indicated rainfall, or higher in the elevation, snowfall taking place right now. So that was a beautiful shot courtesy of the gentleman in Sky 3. And here's the situation. That low pressure system will continue to push on to the southeast across Clark County. When we're on the backside of the low tomorrow, what that means is that the cool temperatures will still remain. However, the clouds should clear on out. So it's really tonight into tomorrow morning where we expect the rain to kind of hang around and snowfall up on the mountaintop. 43 degrees by prime time, 40 by late night. Tomorrow's high 50 degrees. Clearing on out though, but the wind is still going to hang around once we're on the backside of that front. Out at the lake, showers of course, and then clearing on out tomorrow, 56 degrees. And up on the mountaintop, you have a winter storm warning in effect, and you can see 6 to 12 inches of snowfall. 24 degrees will be your high tomorrow after falling back to 10. Over the next several days, here's what you can expect weather-wise. We're going to hang out in the 50s, unfortunately, and come Saturday, chances of rain every single day. So right now, that was a beautiful shot. I wanted to just take a picture of that shot. Nice. Again, Kelly Mulkerin, thank you so much for watching. Thanks for sending this card.
Thanks, Rachel.
You're welcome.
He spends most of his time working on movie sets. Well, now actor Don Johnson may be spending some time in court.
Yeah, we'll tell you why a woman is suing Don Johnson after she says he came on to her. We'll have the whole story up next. He plays a playboy on TV, and this next story makes Don Johnson look like he might be one in real life as well. A woman in San Francisco says the actor tried to solicit sex from her at a sushi bar. According to police, the woman claims Johnson grabbed her arm and made inappropriate comments about her body. Johnson's attorney says about 24 women came up to Johnson that night, and in his words, the propositions probably came from the women. Now, 3 years ago, I don't know if you remember, but Johnson settled out of court with 2 women who said he sexually harassed them on the set of the TV show Nash Bridges.
With a new president in office, White House aides are more apt to share some dirt on President Clinton now. Well, they say he and former Vice President Al Gore had a love-hate relationship, and that after this past presidential election was over, the two actually had it out at the White House. Sources say Gore blamed his loss in the presidential election on Clinton, saying Americans held Clinton's whole Monica Lewinsky scandal against him. Clinton said Gore lost because he didn't run on the administration's economic record.
Watch for a version of that on Saturday Night Live, sure. Soon, I'm sure.
Of course.
Coming up here, the space shuttle Atlantis is off the ground.
It's headed for a very difficult mission next on News 3, where news comes first.
Tonight, in the line of fire, we'll go inside the Secret Service on the day they are forced into action outside the White House. It's ahead on NBC Nightly News.
Tomorrow at 5 in a News 3 hot seat.
Credit card companies make it way too easy for you to get in over your head.
You get a credit card offer in the mail, you open it up. Ooh, I'm pre-approved.
News 3 anchor reporter Jim Snyder digs deeper and uncovers some important facts about your credit cards and how transferring balances for lower interest rates could do more harm than good.
Do you think anyone ever wins the credit card game?
Watch and learn as we put the credit card game on the News 3 hot seat tomorrow at 5.
Good evening, I'm Kendall Tenney with a look at what's coming up on News 3 at 6. Southern Nevada could turn into a dumping ground for the nation's nuclear waste, but the city of Las Vegas has something to say about that. Tonight, the city's plans to sue the federal government. And they lost a loved one in the Oklahoma City bombing. Now a Las Vegas family faces one of the toughest decisions of their lives, whether or not to attend Timothy McVeigh's execution. Those stories and a lot more coming up in just about half an hour. Jim?
Thanks, Kendall. A picture-perfect beginning today to a very critical mission for the crew of the space shuttle Atlantis.
1-0 and liftoff of Space Shuttle Atlantis with Destiny.
Never get tired of watching that, do you? Atlantis lifted off the launch pad at Kennedy Space Center about 3:13 our time. The crew will be delivering a 16-ton, $1.4 billion module to the International Space Station. It's got a bunch of life support systems in there and other things they'll need up in space.
We'll see you back here at 6 o'clock.